Way to go, Tic Tac!
That's how you punch.
Wakanda forever!
You wouldn't have heard of me.
Let me put you on hold.
Dance off, bro! He's a friend from work!
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
What up, guys? It's Dom. Welcome back to another movie review. Today we are going over and ranking Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, released in 2023, written and directed by Eli Roth. After a Black Friday riot ends in tragedy, a mysterious Thanksgiving-inspired killer terrorizes Plymouth, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the infamous holiday. Now, this movie obviously was not requested to me and was not the movie of the week that I would go to see in theaters, but I still decided why not do it because the holiday is coming up. For me, it's tomorrow, but by the time I upload this, it might even be day of. So, happy Thanksgiving, everyone, for everyone watching it on Thanksgiving. But otherwise, let's just get right into the 10 essential aspects of a movie. The first essential aspect is plot. Now, I really, really enjoy mystery movies. I love trying to figure out myself who the killer could be. And this movie did a really, really good job of getting my suspicions up there for certain characters, even if they're misguided. Like, obviously, that's not going to be the killer, but I still like to think if they are, how could they be doing it? Why could they be doing it? So I love mysteries in that way. So that's why this movie is definitely high up for me. I just feel like the recipe that they were given just worked really well in this. So I have to say the plot, for how simple it is of just a killer getting revenge, it's simple but really good. The second essential aspect is attraction. So I think this movie does have an attractive factor, and that's for two reasons. One, I think having a Thanksgiving-inspired killer is really cool. I don't think that's been done yet. So seeing him actually do the kills Thanksgiving themed and what his whole plan is, I don't want to spoil it, but his whole plan towards the end is really based around Thanksgiving. And obviously it's because of the tragedy that happened on Thanksgiving. But it's just cool to see because you see Christmas killers, you see obviously Halloween killers, and you see really any other time of year. You just don't really see Thanksgiving. So it was cool to see this kind of adaptation that hasn't really been done before. And the other reason why I think this movie does have attraction is because it's kind of realistic. The scenarios that they're in are kind of realistic. Not the serial killer part, because that might not happen. But this serial killer is just a human, a regular dude trying to get revenge. So you can see throughout a lot of the movie that his capabilities aren't. It's not like this is like a super strong, powered monster that's hard to defeat. No, he's just a dude. So I'm glad that they made it that simple. And at the beginning with the Black Friday riot, it's scary how realistic that is, because they wanted to just get in 5 minutes early to get like a free waffle cooker, even though they could have just waited 5 minutes and still gotten the same waffle cooker. So it's crazy that can just make everyone just break through the barricade and tragedy happen. So that is definitely, because I've never been a big Black Friday guy, and I know there's people that go crazy over it, and that is exactly why I think I would not want to go crazy for it, because it's literally a zoo. It's literally a stampede once the doors open. So it was cool to kind of shine the light onto that kind of situation and seeing a Thanksgiving killer. The third essential aspect is theme. I've been sitting here trying to figure out a theme and message. I really don't think there was one. Maybe the message is Happy Thanksgiving. Who knows? I just don't know what it is. The fourth essential aspect is dialogue. I thought the dialogue was pretty good. The conversations did feel real, especially between the high school students. They actually felt like students. They didn't feel like adults playing students, which is a very, very good thing. And other than some kind of slightly cringy dialogue towards the end by the sheriff, it was literally like a one-liner, so that didn't really affect my opinion on it at all. So I have to say dialogue in this movie was pretty good. The fifth essential aspect is acting. Now, all the acting in this movie was decent. There's no bad acting in this movie. However, I feel like Nell Verloc, who played Jess, she did a really good job as the main character. She was definitely on screen the most, and she was not the main target, but the final target of the serial killer. So she had a big role to play. She had to be very convincing in her role, and I think she definitely was. I definitely felt she felt scared, and that's something that horror movies also sometimes have a hard time with, is making them feel scared realistically. Really, sometimes it's just over the top screaming, or you really don't even look scared, but you're just acting scared. But she actually looked scared, so I do have to give her credit that she played that role well and played the emotions how they were supposed to be. But yeah, otherwise, everyone else at least did decent. There wasn't any bad acting in here, maybe from someone that showed up in like 2 scenes, but that doesn't really affect much. The sixth essential aspect is cinematography. So when it comes to cinematography, I think emotion-wise, the only thing I can really give it is surprise factor, intrigued, invested. Even though those aren't really emotions, I just feel like that's the closest thing I can get to them, because there wasn't anything really scary to me that I got really scared, besides maybe like a jump scare, but I don't really count those. And there wasn't anything that I was like sad about in this movie. And when it came to visuals, I mean, the movie looked good. There wasn't any real problems, but there wasn't really anything so major that I should talk about it. So it was just kind of just there, but it was good. The seventh essential aspect is editing. So this movie is 1 hour and 46 minutes long. I think that's a great length. It didn't need to be any longer. It got all of the suspense up in the air, and then finally ended off with you finding out the killer and the motive and everything. So I think the movie was paced pretty well. There wasn't any discrepancies that I could see. And definitely if they made it a little longer, it would have been a longer watch. Maybe if they could have maybe made it like 15 minutes longer, but I think at the pace they were going, they shouldn't change anything. I think it worked out really well. Definitely also wouldn't have worked if it was shorter. So I guess it's right where it needs to be. Pacing was well, ending was well, so it was well. The eighth essential aspect is soundtrack. I don't really remember if there's a soundtrack besides like the credits, but I'm not really going to count that. So I can't really talk about it because I don't remember. I think it matched the theme very well, but I don't remember. The ninth essential aspect is directing. Now I think it's the director's job to take these previous 8 essential aspects, put them together to make a movie that's worth watching. And the director of this movie is Eli Roth, and he's previously directed 9 movies, and they are Cabin Fever, Hostel, Grindhouse, Hostel Part 2, The Green Inferno, Knock Knock, Death Wish, The House with a Clock in Its Walls, and Finn. And then when I read the name Eli Roth, it seemed fairly familiar to me, and that's because he also directed Borderlands. Now, Borderlands was a tragedy. It was god awful. It is towards the bottom of my list. But this movie, I really liked it. It would actually be it would be higher up in my list. The only reason why it's not really high up is because of the rewatchability. I feel like after a second watch of this, once you know who the killer is, the suspense is gone. The whole point of the movie is kind of gone. So that's something that I really shouldn't be punishing this movie for, because it's a mystery movie. So in any of those movies, the rewatch is not as good. And that's just the genre that it is. But I have to say, if I have to choose between a movie that I can watch 100 times, enjoy it the same every time, or one that I can watch once and then it won't be as good the second time, I'll probably still end up rewatching Thanksgiving just because it was a good movie, but I just know it won't be as enjoyable. So I do have to say, movie-wise, Eli did a really good job with this movie. And I don't think that it's really his fault that this is just a horror genre. A mystery genre. And the 10th essential aspect is time. Like I was just saying, I mean, the rewatchability isn't there, so I don't think it will stand the test of time. I mean, this movie is a year old. I still remember it, so it's clearly stood some kind of time. It stood at least a year. But I have to say, as movies that have to do with Thanksgiving, there isn't too many, so maybe it'll stand the test of time when it comes to just this holiday in particular, because this does seem like a movie that I could see myself watching every year for Thanksgiving. Just because I really enjoy mysteries, I really enjoy the horror, so maybe it's something I'll do every year. But when it comes to general population, I don't think this will stand the test of time unless it is for the holiday. Now, onto the reviews. So, Rotten Tomatoes critics give it an 84%, Rotten Tomatoes audience gave it a 79%, and IMDb gave it a 62%. Now, I immediately already agree with Rotten Tomatoes critics. I think this is a really good movie. The only reason I'm not giving it a little bit higher is because of the rewatchability. So I have to say, if that's the one thing that's really taken me out of this movie, taken me away from this movie, then I mean it definitely deserves to be in those 80s. And finally, the rankings. Now, before I start doing the rankings, just remember these lists are constantly ongoing. They will change after every watch. I could think of something else about a movie I watched a little bit that I didn't quite bring up, and then it will make me want to switch. And this will keep changing. The list will most likely never be the exact same, or actually it probably will be for some videos in a row. But if after like a few videos and you notice that the list is kind of different, it's because I most likely thought of something that made me want to change it. So I just wanted to get that out there, just because the list for this video might not be the same one as it was in the last video. So without further ado, okay, so in 2023, it's going to be first, and it's above Beautiful Disaster. I don't think that's even a question. This movie is clearly better than Beautiful Disaster in every way. Even though the rewatchability isn't there, it does not matter. It still deserves to be above it. In the 2020s, it's going to be 7th, above Blink Twice and below The Fall Guy. And it's above Blink Twice because both have kind of the same issue where I feel like Blink Twice I wouldn't enjoy it as much on a rewatch. Same with Thanksgiving. And because they both have that same aspect, I believe the rest of the movie, Thanksgiving, is better. I think I was definitely more invested, definitely more intrigued with the concept of Thanksgiving, and it would just be one that I would rather watch again than Blink Twice. And it's below The Fall Guy because that movie can be rewatched 100 times. It's made for entertainment. It definitely got me entertained. I think the acting's really good, and even the romance in the movie is investable, where you actually are cheering for these two. So I have to say, when it comes to the movie being better overall, The Fall Guy is definitely above Thanksgiving. And in all time, it's going to be 25th, above Blink Twice and below The Fall Guy. Now, it's the same one as I just said, so I'm not going to really explain why, but I am going to explain this movie. I did not think it would be 25th. I thought it was going to be in the maybe like 12th. But I put it up there, and then I realized all these movies below it are still good at rewatch, and which means they're probably going to be better. So I would have personally put this up at 12th, I think. But the rewatch, that when I realized that, I had to lower it. So that's why, because I know I didn't say really anything bad about this movie, so you guys must be wondering why it's so low on my list, but that's why. It's literally just because the other movies can be rewatched with almost the same amount of entertainment value. That's all I have for Thanksgiving. If you guys enjoy this review, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Make sure to comment what movie you want me to review next. If you want to see someone that does the same format as me with movie reviewing, both the review and the rankings, check out my best friend, Mr. Majoritarian. He does the exact same thing, except he has a different, what's the word I'm thinking of? Point of view. Sure. And he definitely sees movies in more of a cinematic sense than I do. I do focus a lot on the entertainment. So if you want to see someone that reviews movies like that, definitely go check him out. I love watching his stuff, even though, I probably would say that anyway, but yeah, I do really enjoy watching his stuff. I feel like you guys would too. His link will always be in my description. And I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. Peace out.